Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. One question I always get from my clients is how much to spend on marketing, and how do we know if it's working well and it's effective? I can measure the math once you've built the marketing system, and we can see how it's affected by changing the spending and other things. I challenge them to find a less expensive way to do their marketing, and also how do we increase the conversion rate and improve the overall effectiveness of our spending. That's what we're going to discuss with our guest today. She is a passionate personal branding expert. Elayna Snyder believes that improving your bottom line isn't just about strategy. It's also about how the soul of what you do fuels your strategy. Elayna works with coaches, consultants, and thought leaders who are tired of the endless cycle of tactics. She helps you develop a client creation system from the inside out, one unique to the soul and strategy of what you do, resulting in your best clients repeatedly raising their hands, ready to take action with you. Let's meet her and see how she does this. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Elayna Snyder. It's great to have you join us today.
Rocky, thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I work with coaches, consultants, advisors, even some real estate agents, anybody in the professional services to create their own clients. And this is a system that's really built inside out, as I like to say, because we're really looking at the soul of what you do, the soul of who you are, and then we're building out a system that really allows your best clients to raise their hand and action with you. So it's building out that client creation system that I'm really focused on with the clients that I work with.
And I love it when clients or potential clients just raise their hand and show up on my calendar ready to do business without me putting a lot of effort into it. So that is, it's always fun to be able to create those systems and make them work. We're going to chat a little bit more about that. Before we do, let's take a step back. How did you learn about Profit First?
That's a great question. About a little over a year ago, I was working with a wealth coach, and he mentioned it to me. He told me about the system. I basically understood that it was having multiple bank accounts within my bank, and I could understand the importance of what it is, Profit First. And so I started implementing it. I didn't know a whole lot about it. And in fact, I don't know as much as sometimes I feel like I should know about it now. But I work with a great bookkeeper and we get things done, and I'm all about Profit First.
So your bookkeeper is the one who's running the entire system for you.
Yes. Yes.
And you haven't read the book.
Nope, I haven't read the book.
And so this is something that I want the audience to really kind of take to heart. Number one, this is pretty easy to do. You don't need to spend a lot of time on it. And you just got to figure out who can make this happen for you and do the work for you. You don't have to do everything yourself in your business. It's all about who can help you, not how do I get this done. And so I just want to congratulate you. It sounds like you're not a numbers person in the sense of wanting to look at your accounting and that. And that's what most business owners are. You knew you had to do something. You handed it off to somebody and said, go do this and make it work for me. And it sounds like it has.
Yeah, it has. And it's actually because I like to know just enough to feel comfortable. And it's been a great way to get to know my bookkeeper and what he does and what his expertise is, and also just kind of sit back knowing that I'm being taken care of. So it's given me more than just the profit first, I guess I'd say.
Well, congrats on that. And as your business grows, were there any hiccups, or does your money flow where it needs to and everything just works perfectly?
Yeah, I mean, again, this isn't my forte. So when I look at it, it looks good. It looks seamless. And I have the support that I need when I have questions. Actually, the last time we spoke, Rocky, I had a question for you. And yeah, things have been working really well.
Glad to hear that. So let's learn a little bit more about this, because I know I have done this for myself. And the reason I did it for myself is when you look at client creation, it is not hard to spend a lot of money and get no results, or get results. But if you're spending a lot of money to get those results, it dramatically decreases your profitability.
Yeah.
And so when you can figure out how to create a client attraction system where people just show up and say, I want to do business with you, that's awesome. So how do we do that?
Yeah, this is this is what I do. This is my favorite kind of conversation. And where this really starts with is I like to use an analogy to explain what this is all about. And first of all, I want to add to what you were saying about the client attraction system, because there's another problem that we have when we bring clients into our business. And that problem can be that we're bringing the wrong people in. And that's something that a lot of the clients that I work with have had a lot of experience with. It's like, all right, well, I'm kind of figuring this out, but I'm not really doing what I want to be doing. And that usually is in part because they've missed something within the way that they're presenting themselves, so that the right people aren't able to find them or miss them, or they're attracting kind of the wrong people. And I use right and wrong as loose terms here. So that's another thing that we really address. And the way that we do all of this is through this analogy. I like to talk about rock climbing. Have you ever done rock climbing, Rocky?
Very little, a long time ago. It's not one of the it's not one of those things that I prefer. When you don't like heights, rock climbing isn't at the top of the list.
All right. Well, bear with me, because I'm going to take us through a quick analogy here to talk about how this works and why this works. And it's going to be through rock climbing, specifically bouldering. So we're not going really high. But when you boulder, you take one of those big crash pads out with you. And what we're going to be talking about is positioning, because that's the foundation of everything across your marketing. That's the foundation for this client creation system, is your positioning. And your positioning does two things for your prospects and for your clients. Just like that crash pad with that boulderer, what that boulderer is doing with the crash pad is they're placing it in a spot that allows them to be caught when they fall. And what that's saying is, hey, I know what your problem is, and I promise that I will be here when you fall. So imagine watching that rock climber fall, and they got to do that several times before they can reach up and grab that last hold. And when they're reaching up and they're grabbing that, what that crash pad is actually doing is it's given them the confidence to do exactly what they need to do. And so when we look at that in terms of our positioning and in terms of our marketing, we're saying two things to our clients. We're saying, hey, I know exactly what you're going through and what these problems are. And I have a system in place that's going to allow you to grab onto that thing that you really want. And I understand what that thing is that you really want. And then the last piece of this is understanding how your solution fits into that. What is the shape of your crash pad, essentially? What is this process that you're taking your clients through? So that in a nutshell it's the typical, hey, you're here. I understand you want to be here. And this is what we can do together. And being able to say that in a way that translates for those clients is how you get those clients to recognize you for your solution and the unique way that you provide it, and have them raise their hand to say, hey, yeah, I want to work with you, Rocky.
That's quite interesting in the analogy that you used and how you talk about it. How do you figure out, though, what's your crash pad? Like, how do you, because what I see most people do is they complicate everything. They don't make it simple and clear.
Yes. I'm glad that you asked. This is all of it. Everything that you need for that crash pad, it is just as simple as you already having it. It's the fact that in marketing or in delivery, sales, whatever, we complicate things with different words. This is essentially, what is your offer? But I don't want to use those words. I want you to know that you know exactly how you take your clients from point A to point B. And I can help you, or someone like me can help you understand what that process is and how it's already there. And the other part of this too is, if you're completely confused, if you're sitting there thinking, I kind of understand what she's saying, but I work with each of my clients very differently, I don't know how I would process that out. I promise you there's always a process. And the best place to look for that process is in what you actually enjoy doing. There's so many hidden clues in what you love to do. And if you still have questions about that, another thing that we can look at is, well, if there's a lot that you think that you don't enjoy doing, then maybe what we need to be talking about is you bringing in the wrong people. And then we're going back to this system. And why do we have this system? How do we create this system around the way that you're already working with your clients, capitalizing on the ones that you really enjoy working with, examining those systems that you already have in place, the processes that you already have in place with working with them. And it's translating that to the digital space that then creates the client creation system that has those clients, your best clients, raising their hands to work with you.
Some people go into business for making money, and some people go into business to do what they love. It sounds like this is a system for people who are in business to do what they love. Is that correct?
Everyone that I work with is definitely working on something that they love. And some people that I work with, they feel frustrated and they don't really know why. And then they realize that it's because they've gotten away from what they love. So yeah, I would say that it is a system for people who really want to love what they do, even if they're questioning whether or not they can.
And that makes total sense. So I know you talk about, as you do this, I guess the key is to finding your unique brilliance. And what exactly does that mean?
Yes. So we hear about this idea of who you are. I'm going to start big and I'm going to make it small and really tangible. Because when we talk about this positioning, this crash pad, part of that is what we bring to the table, what our unique solution is. And that touches upon this idea of unique brilliance. It revolves around who we are, but who we are, that's a lifelong question. So the way that I work with clients is really looking at what are those tangible strengths that they have? How does that translate? What are those gifts that they're bringing to the table that makes their solution unique? And when we can put language around that, that means two things. Number one, it means that your people can find you. And number two, it means that you have the confidence, a different sense of confidence in what you do because you've named it. It gives us this common place to be. And so your unique brilliance are your gifts. And there's a process that we can go through to uncover those and put those at the forefront so that it's part of the bridge to bring these perfect clients into what you do.
That puts two thoughts in my mind. One is, I've always heard it said the riches are in the niches. And so essentially what you're doing is you're creating a niche. And within that niche, you're creating a niche that's only you. So essentially you're creating what they talk about with blue ocean versus red ocean. You don't want to be in a red ocean where all the sharks are and everyone's fighting over the little bit of food. You want to be in a blue ocean where there's no competition whatsoever against you. And it sounds like what you're talking about is helping people to create their own niche that attracts the type of people that want that. And then it removes all of the ability to have to compete in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And part of that too is that the niche isn't just a group of people like an industry or anything like that. The niche is also the way you address the problem, and it is the problem itself. So the way that I've created that for myself, which we can see through this conversation, is that I work with people who love what they do or want to love what they do more. And that's part of how I've positioned myself in that red ocean to turn that blue. Because anybody who's successful in what they're doing, anybody who has stopped chasing has done this. They might have different words than I do for it, but this is really where we get to stop chasing. And that's why I call this client creation as opposed to client attraction, because we're creating the people that we want to work with. We're creating the dialogue. We're creating that pathway into partnership, into what we do.
That makes total sense. One of the things that you mentioned to me is that positioning and pricing go hand in hand. What did you mean by this?
Your pricing is the reflection of your relationships. It's the reflection of your relationship to your clients, to the results that you create, to the value that you provide. And it's also your client's relationship to their desires and to their own value, because they're not going to put in more money than they believe it's worth and that they believe that they're worth. So that's this high level look at pricing to relationships. But then we take one step further and we go from pricing is positioning, because your positioning is a reflection of those relationships. So it's showing us that the only way that people are going to pay for what you have is if you can really show them why they need that. So when we go back to the crash pad analogy, when we have that thin crash pad, that's going to require a lot more work on the climber as opposed to a thick crash pad, which gives them a lot of confidence. It reduces a lot of risk and allows them to climb much more smoothly. But this, again, is really about building out how your solution can help them. And when we do this in a mediocre way, people aren't going to be able to justify paying you a lot of money because there's going to be too much risk involved. So in that way, we're looking at this relationship between pricing and positioning, that they go hand in hand.
So how do you reduce the risk to the person who wants to possibly do business with you?
It's all about building that relationship. So when we would need to look at where are you at? Where are your people finding you? If we take something like LinkedIn, we're building relationships there. We're building community there so that people can see you in that endless ocean as pointing out their problem, as pointing out their solution. and as seeing you as someone who has the unique solution for them. Because when that happens, it's like, oh, well, I really need to learn more about what Rocky's doing. I'm going to reach out to them, and I hope that he's available, because I see through everything that he's putting out, everything that he stands for, that's really in line not only with what I believe, but what I know that I need for my business.
So you're creating alignment, essentially.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, in doing this, then, do you have to spend a ton of marketing dollars?
It really depends on how you like to interact with your ideas and your marketing. I have clients that are really into this because they understand the power of things like content creation to show them more about what they can actually do. So it's a process of personal development, personal growth, and that leads to the business growth as well. The two go hand in hand for those particular clients. I have other clients who would rather have a much thicker crash pad so that they don't have to do much at all, and we can get the same thing done. So it's really about how you like to work. And that's one of the first conversations that I have with anybody is what do you really want? And what do we need to get done? So yeah.
Do people usually know the answer to that question?
Oh, Rocky, I really appreciate you asking that. No, when I say it in terms of what do you really want? No, they don't really know. But when we have a conversation around what do you want to be involved in, I had a conversation this morning, and he was very clear about how much time he could invest and what he was really working towards in terms of scale. And so those throughout the conversation, through that first initial conversation, we can pinpoint kind of what avenue we need to take. And we can always put things on and take things off as we go. That's kind of the beauty of what I've built for myself, because I love to mix and match in terms of what you need and what you don't need. And everything is really tailored to where you want to go, as opposed to putting anybody in a system that's so created that, they may or may not get results.
And so this is, highly customized. There are systems out there that somewhat work, but then you probably don't get pricing power. It's hard to really differentiate yourself. You start to sound like everybody else, correct?
Yeah, that's a great point.
What else should people know about this?
The last thing I'd really like to say is that it's a great idea to always let your clients know that there's a deeper way that they can work with you. And we can go back to the pricing conversation to this. And by that, I mean, if you come into my service at X amount of dollars, but you know that there's something else, because there's always problems that we get over and then we discover something new. And when we built this relationship between each other, if you know that I can help you with the next thing, then that's really important to showcase. And so what I tell my clients is make your $1 million offer. Or if $1 million seems like a stretch, just choose a number that seems like a good enough stretch for you, whether that's 25K, 50K, whatever it is, and let yourself dream with that offer, because you're doing two things in that. You're letting your clients know that there's a deeper way to work with you, and you're also allowing your dream to brush up with reality, maybe before it's even ready to become a reality. Because by making this $1 million offer or 50K offer, I'm not advocating that you try to sell that tomorrow. I'm not even advocating that you put that at the forefront of anything that you do. But you can begin to kind of nestle that in there in your conversations with clients and help them know that there's a deeper way to explore. There's a deeper way to get results, and there's more than what they're experiencing now.
And I find for most business owners, they have, I'll call it a temperature for their pricing. Like people are always afraid to charge more. They think that people won't always pay. And so often it seems like a lot of business owners want to be towards the lower end of the pricing structure instead of towards the higher end. And I know a lot of business owners who said, we're going to be a premium price product. We're going to be the most expensive one in this particular arena. And it's having the confidence to do that, as well as the offer that matches that confidence and that strength.
Yeah. And the other piece of that is this positioning part. The most beautiful part of getting your positioning right is gaining the confidence to be able to do those things, because you've done the work to know that you really understand how all of these puzzle pieces match up, so that when you make that decision to raise your prices or to have this higher priced offer, it makes sense because of the foundation that you've built. And not only have you built that foundation, but it's what other people can see. Because remember, the positioning, that's front facing, that's out there, that's how people are seeing you. And it just becomes the beautiful intangible of what it means to really nail this down.
And you have to be congruent. Like the way that you present yourself needs to be in congruence with what you're saying. Sometimes you'll see some businesses and they'll say one thing, but when you look at them, you just feel off. It's like, I know they said this, but everything I see about them doesn't seem to match that. And so having that appropriately done is extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sometimes when we venture off into this land that isn't us, a lot of the times I find that it's tactical approaches that take us away from who we really are, from those gifts that we have. And it makes us say one thing and do another thing. So checking how we're using our tactics, how we're using those strategies, and coming from a place of strategy first, as opposed to, well, let me just try this. This worked for somebody else. So, I'm trying to get to where I want to go in the quickest way possible. That usually doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And it's rather frustrating when I talk to people like that. I'm like, we can get you there, but it takes time and it takes effort. People who tend to get there fast usually fall off quickly because they didn't build the proper foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's reiterative. We're just taking one step and building on that one step and building on that one step. And that is the process of time too.
It is. It takes time to build a solid foundation. And those are the conversations I have every week with my clients. If people would like to learn more about your services, what is the best way for them to find you, to connect and see what you do?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is finding me on LinkedIn, Elayna Snyder. I would love to have a quick direct messaging conversation with you. Lots of content on there. It's a great community to connect in a more personal way. So LinkedIn would be where to find me.
And I will put a link to your LinkedIn connection in the show notes here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
Did you notice how she implemented profit first by getting her bookkeeper to do all the work? I love that. I looked at a lot of marketing strategies as I built my business, and I got great advice from someone who works in this space. He said, if you create a system that requires a lot of spending to attract clients, you will always be stuck paying. He said, find a way to build a system that doesn't require a lot of spending, which is what I did. All businesses can find a way to do this, and at the end of the day, most marketing comes down to math. It's leads, the number of them, the conversion rate, the average client purchase, and how many times they're going to purchase in a year. I track a lot of this for my clients. Check out Elayna's work to see how to build your own system that makes you stand out from the competition and bring in great clients without a lot of work. Remember, you don't need more resources, you need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.